The sky over Seoul burned orange, and it had nothing to do with the sunset. Daehyun stood on the observation deck of the emergency government facility, watching the toxic clouds roll across what used to be a thriving city. The air filtration systems worked overtime, but everyone knew it was only delaying the inevitable. Earth was dying, and humanity had maybe 50 years left before the planet became completely uninhabitable. He turned away from the window and walked back to the command center. Admiral Mirai was there, surrounded by screens showing the same desperate situation repeated across every continent. Fires in the Amazon, dust storms covering half of Asia, the oceans turning acidic. They had tried everything, spent every resource, but nature was collapsing faster than they could fix it. "Sir, we're detecting something," a technician said, her voice shaking. "Multiple objects entering the solar system. They're not ours." Mirai's hand went to her sidearm instinctively. "Battle stations. Get me a visual." The main screen flickered and showed them. Ships, massive vessels that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, moving through space with an elegance that made Earth's clunky spacecraft look like children's toys. There were 12 of them arranged in a formation that suggested organization, intelligence, and power far beyond human capability. Daehyun felt his heart hammering. This was it. Humanity's final chapter. They were going to be invaded by aliens while their planet died beneath them. How long until they reach Earth? 4 hours, the technician said. They're slowing down, almost like they want us to see them coming. Mirai ordered every defense system online, though everyone in the room knew it would be useless. Earth's military was designed to fight other humans, not beings who could cross the stars. Daehyun stood beside her, watching the ships approach, and tried to think of something diplomatic to say when they arrived. If they arrived peacefully, the lead ship stopped just beyond the moon. Then, impossibly, a voice came through every communication device on Earth simultaneously. It spoke in perfect Korean, English, Mandarin, Spanish, and a dozen other languages at once, each person hearing their native tongue. "People of Earth, we are the Velrani. We have detected your civilization's distress. We come in peace, offering assistance. Please do not be afraid." The command center erupted in chaos, people shouting, arguing about whether it was a trick or a miracle. Mirai silenced them with a single gesture. "Daehyun, you're our diplomatic envoy. You'll meet with them. Meet with them where? They're asking permission to land a single shuttle in Geneva. They say they'll send one representative unarmed." It was the strangest invasion in history, Daehyun thought. The aliens were asking permission. Within 6 hours, he was on a transport to Switzerland, along with representatives from every major nation. The world watched as a small silver craft descended from the sky and landed softly in the middle of the empty plaza. A door opened and a being stepped out. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. It had 4 arms, each ending in delicate fingers, and its face was almost human-like, but with eyes that held colors Daehyun couldn't name. It wore simple robes and carried nothing. "I am Thel Moon," it said, its voice gentle. "I speak for the Velrani Empire. We have traveled far to offer you help." Daehyun stepped forward, chosen by quick consensus to speak first. "Why? What do you want in return?" Thel Moon's expression shifted into something that might have been a smile. "Your question reveals much about your species. You have learned to suspect kindness, but we want nothing. Your world is dying. We have the technology to heal it. We simply wish to help." Over the next 3 days, the Velrani explained everything. Their civilization had nearly died 2,000 years ago from similar environmental collapse. They had survived, learned, and grown. Now they traveled the galaxy looking for young civilizations in trouble, offering assistance. They showed humanity their technology, devices that could clean oceans in months, machines that could repair atmospheric damage, medical treatments that could cure diseases Earth had never solved. Mirai remained skeptical. "Nothing is free. There's always a price." But Jinho, a young engineer who had been studying the Velrani equipment, came to Daehyun with different news. "It's real, all of it. I've tested their atmospheric processors. They work exactly as promised. Admiral Mirai doesn't want to believe it, but these aliens are actually trying to save us." Sora, one of the medical researchers, confirmed the same. The Velrani medicine was miraculous. It could extend human lifespans by decades, cure cancers, repair genetic damage. "They're giving us everything. Medical scans, blueprints, instruction manuals. They're not hiding anything. The world's leaders gathered for the final meeting with Thelmoon. Dahyun led the human delegation. We don't understand. You're giving us technology that would take us centuries to develop. You're asking nothing in return. Why? Thelmoon looked at the gathered humans with those strange, beautiful eyes. A civilization that cannot help others is not truly advanced. We give because we can, because someone once gave to us. Perhaps one day, when you have become strong, you will do the same for another dying world. But what if we use this technology for war? Mirai asked. What if we become a threat? Then we will deal with that if it happens, Thelmoon said. But we believe in you. We have studied your species. You are violent, yes. You have fought terrible wars. But you are also capable of great compassion, of sacrifice, of love. We choose to nurture the better parts of your nature. The decision was made. Humanity accepted the Velrani's help. Over the next 15 years, the aliens worked alongside humans to repair Earth. Vast machines cleaned the oceans. The atmosphere slowly healed. Forests began growing again in dead zones. The Velrani taught humans the basics of faster-than-light travel, of efficient energy generation, of technologies that seemed like magic. Jinho spent every waking hour learning from Velrani engineers. Sora worked in their medical facilities, understanding treatments that would revolutionize human health. And Dahyun coordinated everything, watching as his dying world came back to life. On the day the Velrani prepared to leave, Thelmoon met with Dahyun one final time. The alien looked older now, tired from the long work. Your world will survive. Your people will grow strong. This is our gift to you. Dahyun felt tears on his face. How can we ever repay you? By remembering, Thelmoon said. By being the kind of civilization that helps others when they are in need. That is all we ask. The Velrani ships lifted off from Earth, leaving behind a transformed world and a humanity that would never forget what had been done for them. As the vessels disappeared into the stars, Dahyun stood with Mirai, watching them go. They saved us, Mirai said quietly. They asked for nothing. Then we owe them everything, Dahyun replied. And humanity always pays its debts. Neither of them knew, standing there in the renewed sunshine of Earth, just how terrible the cost of that payment would one day be. 42 years after the Velrani had saved Earth, Jinho stood in the engineering bay of humanity's largest shipyard, orbiting Mars. He was 63 years old now, but thanks to Velrani medical treatments, he looked and felt like he was 30. Around him, dozens of ships were under construction, each one representing humanity's growing reach into the galaxy. Chief Engineer, the new drive system is ready for testing, a young technician said. Jinho nodded, reviewing the specifications on his tablet. Humanity had taken what the Velrani taught them and improved it. The new engines were 17% more efficient than Velrani designs. Some species in the galaxy had noticed this and were starting to ask questions. Humans learned fast, perhaps faster than anyone expected. On Earth, Dahyun was now 89 years old and still sharp as ever. He sat in the Grand Assembly Hall, where representatives from 17 human colonies gathered to discuss policy. Humanity had spread far in 4 decades, 17 worlds, 23 space stations, mining operations in a dozen asteroid belts. They traded with 40 different alien species, and the galactic community had welcomed them warmly, mostly because everyone knew humans were the Velrani's students. The debt of honor must remain our primary doctrine, Dahyun said, his voice still strong despite his age. The Velrani saved us. We must never forget that. Every ship we build, every treaty we sign, every decision we make should honor that debt. The Assembly voted unanimously to make it official policy. Humanity would remember. They would be worthy of the gift they'd been given. Meanwhile, on the frontier, Captain Hyunwoo commanded the Remembrance, humanity's flagship. He was young, only 32, but he'd proven himself brilliant in both tactics and diplomacy. The ship cruised through neutral space, conducting surveys and maintaining peace in the sectors humanity had claimed. Captain, we're receiving a distress call, his communications officer said. It's from a Velrani colony ship. Hyunwoo was on his feet immediately. Plot an intercept course, maximum speed. What's their situation? They don't say, sir. The message is corrupted, but they're definitely in trouble. The Remembrance arrived to find the Velrani ship damaged, its hull breached in 3 places. Pirates had attacked them, small-time raiders who thought a science vessel would be easy prey. Hyunwoo's crew drove off the attackers and spent 2 days helping repair the Velrani ship. The Velrani captain, an elderly female named Silmar, thanked Hyunwoo personally. "You did not have to help us." "Yes, we did," Hyunwoo said simply. "Your people saved ours. We will always help Velrani in need." But that incident was minor compared to the news that started filtering through galactic channels 6 months later. The Velrani Empire's outer colonies were under attack. Not pirates. Something much worse. The reports were scattered and confusing, but the pattern was clear. Velrani worlds were going silent, one after another. Borum, Admiral Myrai's daughter and now a commander in the human fleet, brought the compiled intelligence to Earth's military council. She was 38, trained by her mother in both strategy and skepticism, but she'd also grown up hearing stories about the Velrani's kindness. "It's bad," she told the council. "We don't know what's attacking them, but 12 Velrani colonies have been destroyed in the past year. The Galactic Council is monitoring the situation but hasn't committed forces yet." "Why not?" one of the counselors asked. "Because they're scared. Whatever is attacking the Velrani is powerful enough to frighten everyone else into neutrality." Back on Mars, Jinho reviewed combat reports from Velrani military engagements. The enemy was called the Hakthir Swarm, a hive mind species that consumed everything in its path. They were technologically advanced, numerous, and utterly ruthless. The Velrani, peaceful by nature and spread thin across hundreds of worlds, were struggling to mount an effective defense. "We should help them," Jinho said to anyone who would listen. "We have the ships, the weapons, the people, but Earth's government was divided. They had grown strong, yes, but they were still young in galactic terms. The Hakthir Swarm had destroyed civilizations that were thousands of years old. What could humanity do against such a threat?" Daehyun, now confined to a wheelchair but still mentally sharp, called a meeting of Earth's leadership. Hyunwoo was recalled from the frontier. Borum presented her intelligence. Jinho showed them the numbers. Sora, who had become humanity's chief medical officer, spoke about the Velrani refugees already fleeing to human space. "They need us," Sora said, "just like we once needed them." "But this isn't like healing a planet," one of the council members argued. "This is war. Against an enemy that has crushed 6 major civilizations. We could send our entire fleet and accomplish nothing except getting millions of humans killed." The debate raged for hours. Some argued for intervention. Others said humanity had a responsibility to its own people first. The Velrani had given them a future. But did that mean humans should throw that future away in a hopeless war? Hyunwoo listened to all of it, then stood to speak. "I've met the Velrani. I've worked with them, fought beside them against pirates and raiders. They are the kindest people in the galaxy. When we were dying, they could have ignored us. We were nothing to them, a primitive species on a dead world. But they came anyway. They spent 15 years helping us, asking nothing in return." He paused, looking around the room. "Now they're the ones dying. And we're sitting here debating whether we should help them? What does that say about us?" "It says we're thinking strategically," Admiral Miri said. She was 68 now, still sharp and pragmatic. "The Velrani gave us a future. Throwing away that future in a war we can't win doesn't honor them. It wastes their gift." "Then what do you suggest?" Borum asked her mother. "We just watch them die." Before Miri could answer, news arrived that changed everything. The Hakthir had reached the Velrani core worlds. They were 3 systems away from the Velrani homeworld itself. The empire that had existed for 8,000 years was on the verge of extinction. And then came the final transmission from Thelmoon. The Velrani who had first made contact with humanity was still alive, now ancient and serving as a diplomat. The message was broadcast across all human space. "People of Earth, friends and students, we face our end. The swarm comes and we lack the strength to stop it. But I send this message not to beg for help. You owe us nothing. We gave freely, and you have honored us by becoming a noble people. Save yourselves. Remember us." That is enough. The message ended. Thelmoon's final words to the species he had helped save. Daehyun watched the message 3 times. Then he called for a final assembly. Every human leader, every military commander, every colonial governor. They gathered virtually thousands of faces on thousands of screens. "I am dying," Daehyun said. "I can feel it. I have maybe days left, so let this be my final act. The Velrani saved us when they owed us nothing. They gave us everything and asked for nothing. Now they tell us to save ourselves and let them die." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was steel. "We are human. We do not abandon those who helped us. We do not forget. We do not hide while our friends face extinction." He looked at each screen, each face. "I call for a vote. Do we honor our debt no matter the cost? Or do we prove that humanity learned nothing from the Velrani's gift?" The vote took 6 hours. It was close, closer than anyone wanted to admit. But in the end, humanity chose honor over survival. They would mobilize the fleet. They would go to war against the Hakthir swarm. They would repay their debt even if it meant extinction. Daehyun died 2 days later, peaceful in his sleep. But before he died, he knew. Humanity had made its choice. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were capable of when they decided to pay their debts. The Hakthir swarm had a simple philosophy: consume everything. They were not evil in any traditional sense. They were a hive mind that spread across the galaxy like a plague, absorbing resources, technology, and even biological matter from every species they encountered. They had existed for millennia, growing stronger with each civilization they destroyed. Hyunwoo saw them for the first time 3 months before the human fleet would mobilize. His ship, the Remembrance, had been conducting reconnaissance near Velrani space when they encountered a Hakthir attack on a small colony. He watched from a safe distance as thousands of organic ships, each one looking like a massive insect made of metal and flesh, descended on the settlement. The Velrani defenders fought bravely. Their ships were elegant, their weapons precise. But the Hakthir didn't care about casualties. For every ship the Velrani destroyed, 3 more took its place. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the colony was gone. 3 million Velrani civilians dead, the planet stripped of all resources, left as a barren rock. "Get us out of here," Hyunwoo ordered, his voice shaking, "and record everything. Earth needs to see this." Back on Earth, Jinho worked 18-hour days preparing the human fleet. They had 200 warships, a number that seemed impressive until you realized the Hakthir operated in swarms of thousands. Every engineer in human space was mobilizing, retrofitting civilian vessels, building weapons, preparing for a war that every strategic analysis said they would lose. "We need an advantage," Jinho told his team. "The Velrani fight with honor, with precision, with minimal casualties. That's why they're losing. The Hakthir don't care about honor. They just swarm and consume. So what do we do?" one of his engineers asked. Jinho pulled up files from Earth's history. Wars from before the Velrani came. World War II, Vietnam, the Mongol conquests. Brutal, efficient, horrifying conflicts where humans had learned to win through any means necessary. "We fight like humans used to fight. No rules, no honor, just winning." The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Representatives from 200 species gathered to discuss the Hakthir threat. The Velrani ambassador, a young diplomat named Corson, pleaded for help. The swarm was 3 systems away from the homeworld. They had weeks at most. The response was disappointing but predictable. The Draknir hegemony, the second most powerful civilization in the galaxy, announced they were sealing their borders. "We sympathize with the Velrani," their representative said, "but we cannot risk our own people in a war we cannot win." The Quarian Assembly, masters of trade and commerce, declared neutrality. "We will provide humanitarian aid to refugees, but we cannot commit military forces." One by one, every major power in the galaxy found reasons not to help. Some were honest about their fear. Others made excuses about treaties and jurisdiction. But the result was the same. The Velrani would stand alone against the swarm, except they wouldn't be alone, because humanity had made a different choice. Borum presented the human battle plan to Admiral Mirai and the military council. It was insane. It violated every convention of civilized warfare. It would result in massive casualties on both sides. But it might actually work. "We can't match the Hakthir in numbers or technology," Borum explained, "but we can match them in ruthlessness. The Velrani fight to minimize casualties, to preserve life even in war. We can't afford that luxury. We fight to kill. We fight to terrify. We make them afraid of us." Mirai studied the plans. Suicide squadrons, boarding actions with nuclear self-destruct protocols, biological weapons designed to disrupt the hive mind's communication, chemical weapons, antimatter bombs, every terrible thing humanity had ever invented or imagined, weaponized and ready to deploy. "This will change how the galaxy sees us," Mirai said quietly. "We won't be the Velrani's noble students anymore. We'll be monsters. Would you rather be a living monster or a dead saint?" Borum asked. Mireille approved the plan. The human fleet gathered at the edge of Velrani space. 200 warships, including the Remembrance with Hyunwoo in command, 30,000 support vessels. Everything from cargo haulers converted to troop transports to civilian ships carrying medical supplies. Every human with military training had volunteered. The fleet carried 4 million soldiers, knowing that most of them would never return home. Jinho was there too, aboard a specialized engineering vessel. He'd be coordinating the technical aspects of the battle, deploying the weapons and systems that would give humanity its edge. Sora remained on Earth, but she'd sent her entire medical corps with the fleet. Trauma surgeons, nurses, medical researchers. They would try to save as many as they could, but everyone knew the casualties would be horrific. The day before they departed, Hyunwoo addressed the entire fleet through a general transmission. His face appeared on every screen, young and determined. 42 years ago, the Velrani saved humanity from extinction. They gave us everything and asked for nothing. Now they face the same extinction we once did. The galaxy has chosen to stand aside. Every powerful civilization has found reasons not to fight. But we remember, we are human and we pay our debts. He paused, letting his words sink in. Tomorrow we enter Velrani space. We're going to war against an enemy that has destroyed civilizations that existed for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. Strategic analysis gives us a 7% chance of victory. 7%. Those are terrible odds. Another pause. But the Velrani didn't calculate odds when they came to save us. They just came. They just helped. Now we do the same. We're going to save them, or we're going to die trying. Either way, the galaxy will remember what humanity did today. The transmission ended. Across the fleet, 4 million humans prepared for war. They jumped into Velrani space and found a nightmare. The Hakthir swarm had reached the homeworld. Thousands of their ships surrounded the planet, a living cloud of death. The Velrani defense fleet, once numbering in the thousands, was down to maybe 300 ships. They fought desperately, trying to hold the line, but everyone could see it was hopeless. Then humanity arrived. 200 ships against 3,000 Hakthir vessels. The odds were even worse than the analysts had predicted. Hyunwoo opened a channel to the Velrani flagship. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Human Expeditionary Force. We're here to help. The response came from Admiral Thurquell, commander of the Velrani defense. Humans, you came? But this is a death trap. You'll be slaughtered. Probably, Hyunwoo agreed, but you saved us once. Seems only fair we return the favor. All ships, weapons free. Remember the plan. No mercy, no quarter. We're not here to be civilized. We're here to win. The human fleet accelerated toward the Hakthir swarm and the galaxy held its breath. Every species with sensors in the region was watching. They expected to witness humanity's noble but pointless sacrifice. Instead, they were about to see something that would give them nightmares for generations. The Hakthir detected the approaching human ships and allocated forces to deal with them. These were young, weak creatures barely a century into space travel. They would be easy prey. The Hakthir. Queen was about to learn why humanity had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. The first Hakthir wave came at the human fleet. Expecting a traditional space battle, they had fought hundreds of species over thousands of years. They knew how civilized warfare worked. Ships would engage at distance, exchange fire, maneuver for advantage. The stronger force would win through superior numbers and technology. They did not expect the human ships to accelerate directly toward them at maximum speed, with no intention of slowing down. All ships, execute ramming protocol, Hyunwoo ordered. First wave, impact in 30 seconds. 20 human destroyers, each packed with enough nuclear weapons to crack a moon, slammed into the Hakthir formation at a significant fraction of light speed. The explosions were visible from the planet's surface. 50 Hakthir ships vanished in an instant. The swarm's careful formation dissolved into chaos. The Velrani defenders watched in shock. "What are they doing?" Admiral Thurquell whispered. "They're sacrificing their own ships. They're not fighting to win territory," his tactical officer said, voice shaking. "They're fighting to kill." The second wave of human ships came through the debris field. But instead of engaging at distance, they closed to point-blank range and deployed boarding pods. Hundreds of small craft, each carrying 50 human soldiers, attached themselves to Hakthir vessels like parasites. Inside the Hakthir ships, human soldiers fought through organic corridors, their suits sealed against the toxic atmosphere. They didn't try to capture anything. They planted nuclear charges in critical systems and evacuated. Some squads didn't make it out. They detonated their charges anyway, taking entire Hakthir vessels with them. Jinho coordinated from his engineering ship, deploying weapons the galaxy had never seen, biological agents designed to disrupt the hive mind's neural connections, electronic viruses that turned Hakthir organic computers against themselves, chemical weapons that made the swarm's ships corrode from within. The Velrani gave us medical knowledge, Jinho said to his horrified staff. We used it to understand biological systems. All biological systems. He deployed another virus, and a dozen Hakthir ships began consuming themselves from the inside. The Hakthir queen, coordinating the swarm from a massive command vessel, felt something she had not experienced in millennia. Fear. These humans were not fighting like civilized species. They fought like animals, like a virus, like something that existed only to destroy. She allocated more forces. 1,000 ships moved to surround and eliminate the human fleet. The humans responded by splitting into smaller groups, each one targeting a different section of the swarm. They didn't try to hold territory. They struck, destroyed, and moved on. Like wolves hunting prey 10 times their size. Hyunwoo's flagship engaged a Hakthir carrier directly. The enemy ship had 30 times the Remembrance's mass and firepower. Standard tactics said to keep distance and use ranged weapons. Hyunwoo accelerated toward it instead. Sir, we'll collide, his pilot warned. That's the idea, Hyunwoo said calmly. All crew to escape pods. We've got 90 seconds. The Remembrance, with most of its crew evacuated, slammed through the Hakthir carrier's hull and detonated its antimatter reactor deep inside the enemy ship. Both vessels exploded in a flash of light visible across the system. Hyunwoo's escape pod was recovered 2 hours later. He was unconscious but alive. When he woke up in a medical bay, his second-in-command gave him a status report. 6 days of combat, sir. We've lost 63% of our ships. Casualty count is over 2 million. But the Hakthir swarm has been driven back from the homeworld. The Velrani are evacuating civilians. What about the swarm? Hyunwoo asked, his voice rough from smoke inhalation. They're adapting, learning our tactics. The Queen has pulled back to regroup. She's bringing in reinforcements. We estimate another 5,000 ships incoming. The human fleet was down to 74 operational warships. The Velrani had maybe 100 left. Against 5,000 Hakthir vessels, they had no chance. But the evacuation was only halfway complete. They needed more time. Borum, commanding one of the surviving carrier groups, proposed a desperate plan. We take the fight to them. The Queen's command ship is in the outer system. If we can kill her, the swarm will be disrupted long enough to finish the evacuation. It was suicide, everyone knew it. The Queen's vessel was protected by thousands of Hakthir ships. But they were out of options. Hyunwoo, still recovering from injuries, approved the mission. Borum led 30 ships on what everyone knew would be a one-way trip. They used every trick humanity had developed, stealth fields stolen from cargo smugglers, camouflage techniques borrowed from submarine warfare. They even painted their ships to look like Hakthir vessels, hoping to get close before being detected. It almost worked. They made it within firing range of the Queen's ship before the swarm realized what was happening. Then every Hakthir vessel in the system converged on them. All ships fire everything, Borum ordered. Then prepare for boarding action. The human ships unleashed every weapon they had. Nuclear missiles, antimatter torpedoes, kinetic kill vehicles, biological weapons, and chemical agents. The Queen's ship's shields flickered but held. It was too well protected. Plan B then, Borum said. She ordered her ship to accelerate directly toward the Queen's vessel. The other 29 ships did the same. Suicide runs, all of them. The Hakthir ships tried to intercept them. 20 human vessels were destroyed before reaching their target. But 10 made it through, and 10 ships packed with enough explosives to destroy a small moon hit the Queen's vessel simultaneously. The explosion was so bright that sensors across 3 systems detected it. When the light faded, the Queen's ship was gone, and so were all 30 human vessels and their 15,000 crew members. But the swarm was in chaos. The Queen was dead. The hive mind was fractured. Individual Hakthir ships operating on instinct rather than coordinated intelligence. They fled, retreating to regroup and select a new queen. The evacuation continued. Millions of Velrani civilians loaded onto transport ships, heading for safe zones deeper in human-controlled space. The Velrani military, what remained of it, formed a defensive perimeter, and humanity's battered fleet held the line. Then came the second wave. Not Hakthir, humans. Sora had mobilized every civilian ship Earth could spare. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining vessels, colony ships, anything that could carry people or weapons. They arrived like a swarm of their own. 2,000 civilian vessels converted to warships. "We heard you needed backup." Sora's voice came through the communications. "Sorry we're late." The civilian fleet wasn't as powerful as the military vessels, but they had numbers. And they had weapons that humanity had kept hidden from the galactic community. Planet cracker missiles designed to shatter worlds for mining. Reality warping devices based on experimental physics. Antimatter weapons so powerful they violated a dozen galactic treaties. "We built these during peacetime," Sora explained to a shocked Velrani admiral. "Just in case. Humanity learned a long time ago to prepare for the worst." The galactic observers watching the battle were horrified. The humans had been hiding this level of military capability while pretending to be peaceful traders and explorers. Every major civilization suddenly reassessed their relationship with humanity. The Hakthir returned with their reinforcements, but they found a very different battlefield. Humans had numbers now, and they still fought without honor, without mercy, without any of the rules that governed civilized warfare. They targeted hive mind ships specifically, using biological weapons to sever neural connections. They hijacked Hakthir vessels and turned them against the swarm. They deployed weapons that the galaxy had banned centuries ago. Jinho's engineering teams worked miracles, jury-rigging civilian ships with military weapons, developing new countermeasures in real time, adapting and improvising with a speed that terrified the other species watching. "Humans are very good at war," one Draknir observer noted. Disturbingly good. The battle raged for another 2 weeks. The Hakthir swarm, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies through numbers, found themselves matched by an enemy that simply would not die. Every time they destroyed a human ship, another took its place. Every time they adapted to a human tactic, the humans invented something new. Finally, with the Velrani evacuation 90% complete, the Hakthir made a strategic decision. This fight was costing them too much. These humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too willing to die for their allies. The swarm withdrew, retreating to digest their losses and find easier prey. Hyunwoo, back in command despite his injuries, watched them go. His fleet was in ruins. Of the 200 military vessels that had arrived, only 18 remained operational. The civilian fleet had lost over half its ships. 4 million humans had entered Velrani space. 3.5 million were dead, but the Velrani were saved. 8 billion civilians evacuated to safety. Their homeworld survived. Their species would continue. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the human fleet limped home, carrying the survivors and the bodies of their dead. They had won, against impossible odds, against an enemy that had destroyed ancient civilizations. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The memorial stretched for miles across the plains outside Geneva, where the Velrani had first landed 67 years ago. 4 million names carved in black stone. 4 million humans who died fighting to save an alien civilization that had once saved them. The dedication ceremony took 3 days because the Velrani insisted on reading every single name aloud. Borum stood at the memorial center, her uniform covered in medals she had earned in those terrible weeks of combat. She was 41 now, but she looked older. The war had aged everyone who survived it. She had watched her entire squadron die when they destroyed the Hakthir Queen. She had survived only because her escape pod had malfunctioned and ejected early. Sometimes she wished it hadn't. The Velrani came in millions to pay their respects. They placed flowers, burned incense, performed traditional rituals from their 8,000-year-old culture. They wept openly for the humans who had died saving them. Thelmoon, now impossibly ancient, stood beside Borum for the entire 3 days, refusing to sit or rest despite his age. "We can never repay this," he said, his voice trembling. "Your people died for ours. We owe you everything." "You owe us nothing," Borum replied, echoing the words Thelmoon had once said to Daehyun. "You saved us when we were dying." "We saved you. The debt is paid." But the galaxy didn't see it that way. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss what had happened. Every major civilization sent representatives. The chamber was packed with hundreds of species, all of them trying to process what they had witnessed. The human ambassador was Borum. She had been promoted after the war, not because she wanted the position, but because someone needed to explain humanity's actions to a terrified galaxy. She stood before the council, still wearing the scars from the HFY War, and faced their questions. The Draknir representative spoke first. His species was old, powerful, militaristic. They prided themselves on being the galaxy's strongest warriors. You deployed weapons we banned 10,000 years ago. Chemical weapons, biological agents, reality-warping devices. You violated every convention of civilized warfare. Yes, Borum said simply. We did. You sacrificed your own ships, your own people, with no concern for casualties. You fought like barbarians. Yes, Borum said again. We fought to win. The HFY don't care about your conventions. They were going to exterminate the Velrani. We stopped them. If that makes us barbarians, so be it. The Quarian ambassador, speaking from a floating platform, raised a different concern. You hid your true military capabilities from the galactic community. Those planet cracker weapons, the antimatter devices, the biological warfare systems, you built them in secret while pretending to be peaceful traders. We did, Borum admitted. Earth learned a long time ago that peace is best maintained when everyone knows you can defend yourself. We built those weapons hoping we'd never use them. We were wrong. But that means you've been lying to the entire galaxy, the Quarian continued. How can we trust you? Borum looked directly at the Quarian ambassador. Where were you when the Velrani were dying? We asked every civilization in this council for help. You all refused. You calculated the odds and decided it wasn't worth the risk. We didn't. We went to war against impossible odds to save our friends. You want to talk about trust? Trust is what the Velrani had in humanity, and we earned it. The council erupted in debate. Some species demanded sanctions against humanity for violating warfare conventions. Others argued that humanity had saved the Velrani when no one else would. The Velrani themselves defended humanity loudly, pointing out that 8 billion of their people were alive because humans had been willing to die for them. Jinho, now appointed as humanity's chief scientist, gave a presentation on human technological development. The galaxy was shocked to learn how much humans had advanced in such a short time. They had taken Velrani technology and improved it, then developed weapons systems the galaxy had never imagined. You created those biological weapons in weeks, a Draknir military analyst said, his voice shaking. Weapons that targeted the HFY hive mind specifically. We've been studying the HFY for centuries and never developed anything like that. We had good motivation, Jinho said quietly, and we had Velrani medical knowledge. They taught us how biological systems work. We applied that knowledge to warfare. It's what humans do. We adapt, we innovate, we survive. That's what terrifies us, the analyst admitted. You learn too fast. You're too good at war. What happens when someone threatens you? When someone attacks human colonies? Will you unleash those weapons on us? The question hung in the air. The galaxy's fear was palpable. They had watched humans fight, and what they had seen was nightmare fuel. A species that would sacrifice everything, use any weapon, cross any line to protect their friends. What would they do to protect themselves? Sora addressed the Medical Ethics Committee separately. As humanity's chief medical officer, she had to explain the biological weapons humans had deployed. The committee was composed of species that prided themselves on their ethics, their commitment to preserving life even in war. You used their own biology against them, one committee member said, disgust clear in his voice. You weaponized medicine. Yes, Sora said. The Velrani taught us how to heal. We used that knowledge to harm. It's not something I'm proud of. But the HFY were going to exterminate the Velrani. We did what we had to do. But where does it stop? Another member asked. You've proven you can create biological weapons that target specific species. What's to stop you from using that against anyone who threatens you? Sora looked at the committee members, at their comfortable positions and their ethical debates. You want guarantees? Fine, here's one. Humanity will never use those weapons unless we or our allies face extinction. We're not conquerors. We're not aggressors. But if you threaten the people we care about, if you try to exterminate civilizations that don't deserve it, then yes, we'll stop you by any means necessary. The galaxy's reaction was mixed. Some species immediately offered trade agreements and alliances, suddenly eager to be on humanity's good side. The Draknir hegemony, which had refused to help during the HFY War, now proposed a mutual defense treaty. The Quarian Assembly offered favorable trade terms. Dozens of smaller civilizations sent diplomatic missions to Earth, but underneath the friendly overtures was fear. Every species with sensors had watched the battle. They had seen what humans could do when properly motivated. They had seen the weapons, the tactics, the absolute refusal to surrender or compromise, and they had all reached the same conclusion: never threaten something humanity cares about. A new doctrine spread through galactic military academies. Never fight humans on their terms. Never back them into a corner. Never threaten their allies. The Hakthir licking their wounds in dark space added humanity to their list of species to avoid. The swarm had consumed hundreds of civilizations over millennia, but they had never encountered anything like humans. Hyunwoo survived the war but retired from active service. He spent his remaining years teaching at Earth's military academy, training the next generation. His lectures were attended by aliens as well as humans, all of them trying to understand human warfare. He always ended his lectures the same way: we didn't fight because we're aggressive. We didn't fight because we wanted glory or territory or resources. We fought because the Velrani saved us when we were dying and we pay our debts. That's all. Remember that, and you'll understand humanity. Jinho continued his work, but now he focused on peaceful applications of technology. He worked with the Velrani to rebuild their worlds, using the same ingenuity that had created terrible weapons to now create tools of construction and healing. But he never destroyed the weapon specifications. Humanity would remain prepared, just in case. Sora dedicated herself to a new project, ensuring the Velrani civilization survived. She coordinated medical aid, helped establish new colonies, adapted human and Velrani biology to create hybrid technologies that would benefit both species. The Velrani became humanity's closest allies, bound not just by gratitude but by genuine friendship and respect. 10 years after the war, Boram stood again at the memorial in Geneva. She was 51 now, finally starting to gray despite Velrani medical treatments. She came to the memorial every year on the anniversary of the battle's end. This year Thelmoon was too frail to attend. He sent a message instead. "The galaxy fears you now," his message said. "They see the weapons you built, the tactics you used, the casualties you were willing to accept. They forget why you fought. They forget that you only went to war to save us. But we remember. The Velrani will always remember, and we will ensure the galaxy never forgets that humanity's strength comes not from cruelty, but from loyalty." Boram read the message to the assembled crowd, then added her own words. "We are not monsters. We are not conquerors. We are humans. We remember kindness. We honor our debts. We protect our friends. That's who we are. That's who we will always be." She paused, looking out at the 4 million names carved in black stone. "But make no mistake. Cross us. Threaten those we love. Try to exterminate civilizations that don't deserve it. And you will learn why Earth spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. We didn't want to be good at killing. We wanted to be good at surviving. Sometimes those are the same thing." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Trade routes shifted to favor human space. Ancient empires sought human favor. And in the dark places between stars, predatory civilizations like the Hakthir recalculated their targets, carefully avoiding anything marked with humanity's protection. The Velrani had saved humanity with kindness and generosity. Humanity had repaid them with loyalty and controlled fury. The debt was paid. The balance was restored. And the galaxy trembled, not in terror, but in respect for a species that had proven something fundamental about themselves. Humans keep their promises. Humans honor their debts. Humans protect their friends. And there is nothing in the galaxy more dangerous than a species that remembers.